Barakallahu fikum. We are, inshallah, just at the end of going over the immediate knowledge. And you see from the information that we have taken, if this is just the basics, and this really, really is basics, how much knowledge was that? That was a lot. So, but when a person is missing these basics, then it will be difficult for him to avoid these different sins because he won't know them. He won't know how to recognize them or define them. And to make sure he fulfills all the conditions and the integrals, we still want to talk about a few more sins. As for the sins of the foot, walking towards any sin is a sin. So each footstep is a sin. Also, walking away from an obligation, each footstep is a sin. What's an example of walking away from an obligation? Like for the wife to run away from her husband, or for the slave to run away from his master, or to flee from raising one's children, or to flee from a debt, or to flee from justice, Islamic justice, that is. That's the only justice. Also, what's the sin of the foot? Uh, Pointing the foot at the Quran. That means stretching your leg straight and your foot is pointed towards Quran. This is not having the foot close to the Quran. Meaning, what if you were sitting with your legs folded in front of you and there's a Quran not very far from your toe? This is not haram. What is a juz? A juz of the Quran is a segment of the Quran. The scholars divided the Quran into 30 segments, 30 ajza for memorization purposes, so that a person can have a regiment for, for memorizing. And they broke each juz down also into smaller parts, quarters and halves. So a person can develop a regiment for memorizing the Quran. And they even wrote it out so that each juz is about 20 pages. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Okay. And okay, walking towards the sin, that includes walking towards uh harming a Muslim unjustly by way of a ruler or a judge or a policeman. Hmm. Okay. Sins of the ear, listening to haram talk. Haram talk like gossip. So I'm just writing gossip here means listening to it. And slander, and other things like that. Not permissible to listen to it. You have to stop the person who's doing it. May Allah enable us. I mean, and also it is forbidden to spy on the Muslims. And also listening to forbidden instruments, which are the wind and string instruments. But not the bugle. You know, the bugle, that's the one that the camp blows to wake up the people in the barracks. So this one is not nice. Or to mobilize uh, the troops or the like. This one is not haram because it's not enchanting. Rather, it is disturbing and annoying. So it doesn't have the reason to be haram. Hmm. Okay. Sins of the hands. Beating the Muslim unjustly. Stealing. And some other things like stealing. Yani, saying stealing in English. So, sariqa, that's when you steal by sneaking and you take something from its secured place. This is the one that, according to Islamic law, can get your hand cut off. This scenario. That's different from looting, grabbing it and running. This one doesn't get the hand cut off. And that's different from strong arming, extorting. It means just being a bully, a tyrant, and you just take someone's stuff by your strength, even without a weapon, even if you don't have a weapon, but with a weapon or without a weapon. And even if that's just taking someone's spot or just taking his turn in line, that's haram. And what else? Like embezzlement. What's that? That's when, like, you're a secretary and you hold the money. And then what you do, just go sometimes slide some money out of there. That's embezzlement. All that's haram. It's not going to get your hand cut off, though. But robbing the people on the highway can get your hand and your foot cut off. So stealing in the sneaky way that I described to you, with its details, I didn't say all the details, can get your hand cut off. Robbing people uh, on the road, this can get your hand and your foot cut off, or it could get you executed altogether if you kill people. Yeah. Amongst the sins of the hands is what? Killing. Murder, that is. We're talking about a sin, we talk about murder. There's different kinds of killing because sometimes you deliberately target someone with what is usually lethal, and then he dies. So that's homicide, murder. This one deserves execution according to the rules. And sometimes you might deliberately target someone, though with something that's potentially lethal, potentially, not usually, potentially lethal, or even unusually not, it's not usually lethal. Could be you did target him, but what you wanted to hit him with is not usually lethal, or is potentially lethal, but it's not usually lethal. And you did not mean to kill him, then this one does not have execution. But there is blood money. There's always blood money for killing. The one who deserves to be executed, he has to, there is blood money also in his case. Notice I changed my words there. I was about to say he has to do something. And then I said there is blood money in his case because this is a big chapter here. And I'm not going into a lot of information. And when someone kills another, then his family will pay the blood money. Uh, and whatever details are there, I still need to review it again. Very detailed chapter. And then there's another kind of killing, which is purely accidental. Like you were working on your roof, and then you slipped and you fell on a person and killed him. There's still blood money here. And of course, there's no sin here. And there is no execution. Blood money comes in the form of camels unless you do a settlement. Hmm. And going back to beating, there is also blood money for some assaults. Assaults include all kinds of things: knocking out a person's tooth, breaking his jaw, cracking his skull, caving it in, or breaking another bone, gouging out the eye, mutilating, like clipping his nostril, clipping his lips, clipping his eyelids, clipping his butt cheek, all these things. There's blood money in these cases, and there's not blood money in all the assault cases. You said, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Here in Nigeria, some type of killings involve fasting a consecutive amount of days. I don't know if that applies in this case. There is for murder also kafara. Kafara, expiation, which is to free a believing slave. If unable, then to fast for 2 consecutive months. So, for murder, there's three things: the expiation, freeing a slave or fasting for 2 consecutive months. This is besides the repentance, of course. Deserving execution, which may be waived by the heirs. And blood money, which is paid by the family of the killer in installments, too, over the course of years, actually. Hmm. Alhamdulillah. You're welcome. And there's a lot of sins of the hands. Sins of the hands is the three biggest chapters of sins are sins of the body, that's biggest, sins of the tongue, second biggest, and sins of the hands. Mm. And as for sins of the body, that includes harming the parents. When exactly would you fall into a sin here? Important to note. When you have, maybe a good word is disappointed or uh, cause distress to, that's a strong word there, I think, your Muslim parents or one of them in a way, yani, that's not usually bearable. For example, what you did made your parent collapse, couldn't stand up anymore, or just broke out crying, couldn't hold himself anymore, him or herself, or uh, caused the parent depression. If you disobey your Muslim parent in a way that causes the Muslim parent distress, depression, gloominess, then that's a major sin. For example, your Muslim parent told you, go wash the dishes, sit down, get in the house, shut your mouth, stop talking. And then you disobeyed your parent here. You didn't take out the trash. You didn't wash the dishes. Go make some tea. Yani, I'm saying it in a way because probably, Yani, the Muslims are good people. So they're going to say, please, for example, be nice. So I'm on purpose saying it like this. Your Muslim parent told you, sit down, go wash the dishes, go make us some tea. Then if you don't do it, and then this breaks the heart of your Muslim parent, then that's haram, major sin. Told you, shut your mouth, kept talking. What? You still talking? Going to be committing major sins here. This even if your parent were a slave, was Muslim. Muslim parent is even if your Muslim parent is a slave. That part doesn't matter. Your parents' status of slavery wouldn't matter here. Uh, if you did something to a person that's haram, then if you do it to your parents, then it's haram. That's easy. If you did something to a person that's haram and it's only a small sin, if you do it to your parents, it's a major sin. As for the non-Muslim parents, one is commanded to treat them well and not to obey them in the disobedience. And don't forget, the dua of the parent against the child is accepted, it's answered. There are three whose dua is guaranteed. The wronged person, the mistreated one, al-mazlum, even a kafir, Prophet said, even a kafir. The Prophet warned us, do not and beware of the supplication of the mistreated one, even a kafir. Who else? The traveler has an accepted dua. And who else? The parent against the child. Those three are mentioned in one hadith. But I don't know if the issue of the kafir is mentioned in the same hadith as with those two. There is a hadith that mentions these three. As I know, that hadith doesn't mention the kafir, but there is a hadith that mentions beware of the supplication of the mistreated one, even a kafir. The hadith I'm telling you is that there are three whose supplication is answered for is guaranteed. The mistreated one, the traveler, and the parent against the child. Our sheikh said the dua of the parent against the child is when the parent is rightful. Then it will be answered. Not when the parent, yani, if the parent just say, "No, I'm gonna make dua against my child for no reason," just and he thinks just because I'm the parent, I will harm him by the dua. The sheikh said, "Not like this." And we learned that the parent can hit the child, and the parent can insult the child too. Yani, insult means like he says, "Don't be stupid. You stupid?" For example, that's an insult. Or he can hit him. So you might hit him on the shoulder, for example, or something. And the parent can take the gift back also. That's only for the parent. And if the parent accused the child of zina, he won't be whipped. The parent won't be whipped. Talk about the wrongful accusation. The accusation without the evidence. Then the one who does that deserves to be whipped, but not the parent. You said once the child has grown up with his own family and such, how much power do the parents still have in telling them what to do? Like all what I'm saying to you doesn't stop. When he gets his own family and his own children, this doesn't stop. Regarding making his own life decisions. Yeah. So he's going to be 40-year-old man. He's getting the gray lines going down his beard. And his parents told him, go sit down. And then his children looked at him and looked at their grandparents, and they looked back at him, and then he's going to sit down. And then his children are going to treat him well, inshallah, because he was good to his own parents. Usually, when you are good to your parents, your children will be good to you. Hmm. And what does it mean to be a sin of the body? It means it's a sin that's not special to any particular limb. And among the sins of the body is cutting ties with kin, cutting ties with kin. That's the Muslim kin. So how do you avoid this sin? That's how you're going to understand this case here. How do you avoid the sin of cutting ties with the kin? By staying in touch with them. How do you do it? By reaching out to them at normal occasions, whenever a baby is born, or whenever someone dies, or when someone gets married, or during the Eid. And what you can do is, yani what anyone can do is, if he's able, a family reunion or family get together. He invites all his family, tells everyone just come, and for example, provides food. And then when they come, when they all gather, then the obligation will be fulfilled for everyone. At least for then. Yani, then after a while, you have to do something again. It could be that you send a salam, but it could be that that's not enough. You need to actually go to a person, go to his house. Sheikh Nabil mentioned a story about a person who came to some people's door. They said, "Who is it?" He said, "I'm Fulan." They said, "Who are you?" He said, "I discovered that we are relatives." They said, "So what, you want some money or something?" He said, "No. I just came to fulfill the obligation and staying in touch with the relatives." Also, you could fall into this sin if you have a relative, a needy relative, and you don't help him. You're not necessarily obligated to support him. When I say support, means like how you do your wife and your child. That's supporting. That means you gave him home, gave him food, gave him clothing. Not necessarily all of this, but you could maybe give him a nice gift, a handout that helps him, for example, because he's your relative. And a charity to the relative is better than a charity to someone else. A charity to your relative is better than a charity to your neighbor. And your relative lives far away. Though a charity to the neighbor is a high ranking charity. And paying zakat to the poor relative is better than paying it to someone else. So then, if you have a poor relative and you have zakat, in this case, it's permissible to hold it to get it to that poor relative of yours. If you could pay it immediately now to some poor person or give it to your poor relative, but you'd have to hold it, then this is an excuse to hold it and then give it to your poor relative. Such a nice religion. Uh, and harming the parents, this includes also not supporting them when it's obligatory to do so. Subhanallah, Sheikh Muhammad Bakri, rahimahullah, when he was giving the tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf, he mentioned a detail that slipped me, which was that that boy that Al-Khadir killed, it's mentioned in the Quran that he was bad to his parents. He was taghi, so he might have been violent with them. Now he was just a boy. Had he grown up, he would have been a tyrant to his own parents, and he would have misguided them. That's how some people are. There was a story about a man who came to Sheikh Abdullah's lesson. His foot smells horrible. Yani, as it was described to me, his foot smells so bad, you want to move away from him as much as you can. And it's like you're pressed against the wall. Anyone who could be pressed against the wall is against the wall. Yeah, and he doesn't. It's not going to help anyway. Everything smells bad. And he said, but the sheikh, he did not flinch one moment with the presence of this bad smell. Subhanallah. And that this man's story, he has a story why his foot smells so bad. He said, once I kicked my mother. After that, my foot swelled up and it cracked and the horrible smell came out. Subhanallah. ما شاء الله كان وما لم يشاء لم يكن. Okay. There are many sins of the body. Now, nothing's coming to my mind, despite that there are many of them. So, I'm going to settle with that for now. And I will say that this then concludes our run through of the immediate knowledge. But you see, when I mention these sins, I'm just saying to you from off the top of my head. So that means there are sins still that you need to learn about. So that's a level finished. Do you have any questions?